So hi, this is my research about analysis in Nexus between visual description and product rating. My name is Chun Fu, and I am currently a junior in Katy in Seven Lake High School. So to introduce this project, we first have to introduce machine learning. Machine learning is a subfield of artificial intelligence that focuses on developing the algorithm and models that enables computer to learn and make prediction or decision based on data. The goal of the machine learning is to create computer program that can learn from experience, adapt new data, and improve their performance over time without being explicitly programmed. So basically the key or the fundamental idea is that the machine will learn for itself if you give it enough data. A good example of this would be like the iris flower that can be found online. It's a research that basically find how much iris flower there is. And then the background of this project is about rental service. Rental service or homestay service is a common sight these days. Its history are so old that its origin are probably lost in the prehistory. In medieval times, most landlord was owned by either kings or by the lords, and almost all farmers were tenants farmer who paid a rent. Usually a percentage or portion of crops grow in return for living and farming the land with. Nowadays, rental service is a popular form of hospitality and lodging, whereby visitors share a residence with the local of areas which they are traveling. Airbnb is a vacation rental company that operates an online marketplace focused on short-term homestay and experience. Its features compared with competitor include reservation screening, 3 million damage protection, pet damage, etc. On the app, the host can offer to rent their house by uploading information of the house in terms of images, prices, location, etc. However, there are still many hosts who are still having a hard time determining what they need to grasp the attention of their customers. According to the RMA, rental market analysis, image plays a major role in which customers think of housing. In the hopes of helping these hosts in the Airbnb find the best image, we have created a program called Airbnb Flutter to find the relationship between attributes inside an image and its rating by using web scraping and machine learning. This program was designed to help many real estate agent and hosts to find the image that will produce the highest rating as well as save many hosts time. The goal of this project is to successfully predict the outcome and identify the similarity between the image of the high ratings. Therefore, the feature included in this project are web scraping and prediction of rating. In the web scraping feature, the user just needs to provide a URL to the software, and it will automatically extract the JSON value that contains in the image attribute so that it will save the time of many hosts and home renters. For this project, here's how it works. It can be separated into 5 major components: the raw data, web scraping, counting items, creating input data set, and machine learning. Here's a brief overview of what each data set does. The machine learning portion is where it connects all of them together and to find the relationship. The raw data set, we only have 50 places that contains from the Airbnb that contains its ID, URL, and its rating. The web scraping portion, it fetches the URL from the web page to extract the JSON value, and it locates the image resource to return the URL of the image. It downloads the image from the URL that we get in the previous step, and then each web page will become a places, will have its own folder for its image. And then it fetches all places one by one, so we repeat it in the loop until all elements in our raw data set are like fetched. And then we count the items, import the pre-built model. It's using a basically using the Python library called YOLO5 and use a YOLO5 to count different items in an image and create an input data set that make these items and qualities into data frame. And more specifically, the raw data is the most fundamental building block of our program. We got this data from a rental company called Airbnb directly. We use Airbnb housing information to create a big list of all places for future machine learning by adding the ID, URL, and rating of the image. The idea was to use the machine learning to connect the attribute inside the URL of the image along with rating. This is basically a brief overview of like the code where we have the ID, the URL, and the rating back there. After the importing the raw data set, we have the web scraping. Basically, we use a certain library to extract the. What web scraping is, we use a certain library to extract the value inside a web and then to add it to our database. The web scraping portion, it's also very important and well connected to the raw data section. This part of the code is used to find the attribute inside the URL of the raw data set. To do web scraping, we fetch the URL from the web page inside the raw data set places by using a Python library called Beautiful Soup to get the content, which is the whole HTML file. In Airbnb URL in the form of phraser, HTML phraser, to locate the image resource in the JSON value inside the page source to extract specific section of JSON to return the URL of the image. Next, we download the image from the URL that we got from the previous step. Each places will have its own folder for image, and the folder name will be the ID of these places. Lastly, we fetch all places by repeating the previous two steps in the loop for every element in our raw data set to ensure that we have the folder for each web page. And if anyone don't know, places is the name for like the raw data set. It's places right here. After we're finished with web scraping, we start to count items. This part is rather simple compared to the rest. We import some pre-built models like YOLO5 and Globe to complete our objective. We use YOLO5 to count each different items in an image by dividing image into a grid system to count the input data set, and Globe to return all file paths that matches a specific pattern. However, before we start counting, we will have to create an input data set in order for the program to know what to look for. We created a function named getTrainingDataset specifically for this by using Python libraries named pandas, short for PD. The pandas libraries is an open source Python package that is most widely used for data science and machine learning tasks. In this scenario, it made a perfect model to get the items and qualities we need into a data frame that lets application know the items it needs to count. The final and most important part of this is machine learning. It connects everything together. We create a training data set by using the input X value, which is the data frame from the previous step, and the output Y value, which is the rating from the raw data set. To build a model to save the future for future use and use the model to predict rating for new places that were not included in the raw data set. Some limitation of this app may be the low data set for machine learning. The data set is considerably small, so like the accuracy might not be enough to cover all. And then another limitation of this may be the all of its raw data set are from Airbnb. Although like the Airbnb is a considerably large website, it might still affect the accuracy. In addition, the current version of our project does not consider location or outdoor views. So this might also affect some practically some users. In the future optimization, we have planned to like add more variables, like how much selected the price rate, how far away is the house, or how many people rated it, and percent of how many people liked it. Here are the experiment tables. Like these are what the some value extract, and then here's what it counts. And then here's a table of the prediction versus the actual. The prediction is from the Airbnb data set, what its like rating is, and the actual is what we got in the experiment. So for this experiment, we used the machine learning to create a table with X variables from the input data set data frame to count the items attribute as the input data and Y variables as rating for our output variable. To prove our accuracy, we used the image from Airbnb to predict its rating to see if it's familiar to its actual rating in Airbnb. So, however, the accuracy may be a major issue since the data set is so small, but it proved to work quite well. The experiment proved that all the project's components, including challenges like Python libraries, web scraping, and machine learning, worked successfully. Therefore, it answered all the issue. The percent error between the project rating and the actual rating from the examination of 50 sample machine learning data say that the percent error between the prediction rating using the model and the actual rating from Airbnb are less than 1.5%. The initial objection or assumption was a 5% error, so this was like much better than the expectation. Some future improvements that I might want is to add a lot more database to improve the accuracy of the project, and to have if with the renter's approval, to have the renter's location so that it can be placed in the machine learning to basically see what house are like closer and easier for the customers. Related work is what Nick Desmond presents, like the predicting Airbnb review score. In his work, he tries to ascertain an adequate customers satisfaction matrix and understand what Airbnb hosts can do to improve customer experience. He, on a 70-30 train test split of the data yields, saves a very impressive R2 score of 0.95. Regression analysis like these perform exceptionally well for linearly separate table and easier to implant, interpret, and efficient to train. However, these type of methods are usually proved to be overfitting and have problems with assumption linearity between dependent and independent variables. Our project, on the other hand, are much more defined to find the linearity between dependent and independent variables. The conclusion is, okay, so what we're done is to propose an application to predict the rating of a house by the attribute inside its image by first collecting all the raw data set from a house rental company named Airbnb that contains the ID, URL, and the rating of the house. Then we fetch the URL from the new page by locating the web page by locating the image resource in the JSON and extracting that section of the JSON value to return the URL of the image. Afterwards, we download the image from the URL that we extracted from the previous step to create a folder so that each place's web page will have its own folder or image. To ensure that we got all those places, we keep repeating the last two steps in the loop for every element in our raw data set. Next up, we imported a pre-built models like YOLO5 to count different items of the image in the imputed data set that we have made into a data frame. Lastly, we used machine learning to train the data set, the input value X and the output value Y, which is the rating from the raw data set. We built a model for future use and apply the application to experiment by predicting rating from new places other than the raw data set. The experiment's results indicate effectiveness and solve challenges because it successfully found all the input value and rating was extremely close to the rating in the Airbnb. So basically it was between 1.5, like the error rating. So it was extremely close. There are still quite some limitation in our application. So first of all, our data is like really small, so the accuracy might not be enough to like cover all. We only have 50 raw data set. So secondly, the all data set used for machine learning are from Airbnb. So that might also be proved to be a problem because although Airbnb is like considerably large website, it might still affect the accuracy because it doesn't contain like everything. So in addition, the current version of our project does not consider like the location or the outdoor views. So this might also affect practicality of some users. So in a future optimization, we plan on adding more variables like how many customers selected the price rate, how far is the house, or how many people just rated and the percent of people who liked it. Here's our citation source from, and then here's a brief example of how our project work. So it's in the App Store. So it's called Airbnb Flutter, also called Rate My House in the App Store. And then here's how it works basically. We open the app, we select all the image that you might want to import onto the Airbnb. And then it will come out a rating. It will predict the rating basically based on its machine learning model. So, and we got a 4.96 for this image. These images are all from one places, which is the Airbnb, to see the similarity. This was outside of the machine learning, and the original is 4.91. So there's only a 0.05 difference. And then, thank you. That's about it. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chun. Is there any questions from forum?
Pardon, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. So I'm asking, is there any questions from forum?
Oh, any constraint?
Any questions?
Not complete. No, not really. It was pretty smooth sailing once I passed all the image, like once I extract all the JSON value. And the inspiration of this project was basically from like the iris flower model and how my parent used to do like real estate agent stuff. So I know some about housing and I thought of designing something to help.